What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is gonna be your review of Twenties, season 1, episode 5. So we start this episode off. Everybody getting them a little piece, okay? The earth is shaking, literally. It's an earthquake, and everybody is getting some actual action except for Mia, who is giving some self pleasure action, and she ends up sending an email to Tristan. That's the dude, the little hotep dude that sells drugs but don't have a phone. Here's my thing, y'all. I get it. You want to be so, I don't know, I guess organic or whatever, that you don't want to be held to a phone, blah, 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 but you got email. So what's the difference? You're still checking an electronic device for a communication purpose. So why you can't have a phone? Whatever. Neither here nor there. But she ends up emailing him to make sure he's okay. Because, they had the little earthquake. And what's funny is you could tell people who are used to just living in LA that none of them had an issue. Like, nobody, they didn't even mention the damn earthquake outside of you okay. So, um, we start off with Miss Hattie, her little, her little, sometimes, boo thing calls. And of course, she got somebody in the bed because, Hattie don't have no problem getting no woman. And she, the girlfriend, the side chick shows her that she's in bed with her real girlfriend. So Hattie, of course, had to show her that she got somebody. And Hattie is starting to really realize that this person ain't really here for her. That she ain't really on nothing. Um, Marie and her boo thing, they getting it in. They having a little kinky sex. They doing more than the missionary and all that good stuff. Um, but we're gonna get back to them too. Mia, we're gonna go ahead and knock Mia out real easy. Mia is still trying to figure this whole thing out. She's taking some acting classes, trying to get her mojo, her acting chakras aligned. It's not really working out too well for her. And towards the end of the episode, Tristan, that's the hotep without a phone, he comes knocking at her door, and she lets him know, like, look, this ain't working for me. I don't like not being able to get in touch with you. I don't like not having any type of communication. And honey, he ends up finessing and winding down her. Next thing you know, they kissing and they getting it in. Okay, she's out the way. Now, let's talk about Miss Marie. Remember, Marie warned old boy that she was his Vietnam and that she was going to be making some power moves. And in this episode, we saw her doing it. They planned a meeting with the basketball player that they're trying to woo, who ends up being Amani Shumpert. Shouts out to Amani. And her boss, but you know what? Her boss comes to her, the white boy, he comes to her and he's letting her know, like, look, um, this is really important. I'm so sorry that, old boy can't be here because Marie purposely planned this meeting when old boy wasn't going to be in the office so she would have the advantage, right? And he said, he really is big on inclusion. And Marie was like, well, what you mean he big on inclusion? Like, he's a black man. And her boss was like, okay, and like, I'm just saying that inclusion is important to him. Like, am I saying this wrong? Am I offending you by saying it? She was like, I mean, saying that a person of color is big on inclusion, I mean, that's sort of like redundant. That's sort of, and he was like, you really don't understand how Hollywood works, do you? He was like, if that were the case, then he said there are more women outside of abortion clinics, yelling at women than men. She was like, yeah, you got a point. He was like, if that were the case, if he said so many people in black Hollywood would be so much better off if they would look out for each other. It's not understood and it's not automatic. He's like, do you think Clarence Thomas gives a damn about black America? And I was like, and even she had to be like, you make a point. And he told her, look, go find me another black person to put in this room. Go down to the mailroom. He's talking about some, go get Shaquan. She was like, we don't have a Shaquan. He was like, yeah, we do. We got a Shaquan down in the mailroom. She said, no, no, no. You're combining Sean, who's a black man, and Quan, who's an Asian man. He was like, well, go get one of them, preferably Sean. And he ends up trying to pitch Amani Shumpert, and he is pitching him this crazy ass Moonlight meets Creed gay boxer who seeks out his dead father's trainer, who's homophobic. Amani Shumpert is sitting there like, sounds like trash. Yeah, you're right, it's trash, but I mean, what would you like to see? And he was like, I mean, I like old movies. He's talking about some, yeah, like Boys in the Hood. And He was like, no, more like Porgy and Bess, Citizen Kane. And Marie immediately jumps in. And they end up having a moment and they vibing and come to find out they like a lot of the same movies. They go to the same theater, like a little, one of them little hole in the wall that plays independent films. And he was like, yeah, he was like, that's what I'm thinking. He said, I'm looking for movies that are gonna, speak to this, the black experience, but not in that same, you know, not in that same, contrived way that everybody, the black man making it out of the ghetto kind of thing. And so he told him, he said, look, I got a couple of more of these meetings to take. He said, but I really did enjoy this meeting. But of course, he's looking at Marie the whole time. He ain't even thinking about her boss. And even the dude from the mailroom, chimed in and was like, yeah, like da 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 da. And he was like, exactly. So what I foresee happening is that Amani ends up going with them, but wants her to work exclusively on his team or whatever. But then he gonna make a move on her. I feel like he gonna make a move on her. Now, so that's professional Marie. Now, love life Marie, her and old boy seem like they are finally clicking and they're vibing and they kind of getting on this whole kinky thing. And he was like, so tonight, you want to look at some porn tonight? And she was like, yeah, let's look at some porn. So she gets home and they're going through Pornhub and they looking at different scenarios. He was like, we got little people porn, we got this porn, that porn. She was like, sure, whatever you want, that's cool. He was like, what about a threesome? And as soon as he said that, I already knew what kind of threesome they was going to talk about, they was going to get to. I knew it wasn't going to be two women and a man. I knew it was going to be two men and a woman. And he puts the porn on. He was like, hey, I found a good one. And I feel like he found it a little too fast. I'm like, I was going to tell y'all too much of my business. I'm like, if you seem to know exactly where to go to find this particular video. But anyway, he puts the video on and, and she comes out in her little negligee and they get to kissing and making out. And she looks over at the movie and it gets to the point where the third person is knocking on the door to join in, and it's a man. And dude is into it. I mean, he's kissing all on her. He is really, getting hot and bothered. And of course, she is looking sideways like, what's really good. Now, again, I still need to know the background because she seemed to already feel like that the man is gay. Something had to have happened or been said for her to feel like he likes men or he's bisexual or something like that. I don't know. We don't get to that. But then, of course, after they get done having sex, whatever, she goes and she Googles it. And I'm thinking to myself, you really had to Google boyfriend likes gay porn? You really had to Google that? And of course, what popped up is bisexuality. So she's dealing with that and processing. We didn't quite get too much into it other than her, Hattie, and Mia had a conversation about how sexuality is fluid and what's the big deal. If she was like, women get to explore their sexuality and nobody thinks twice about a woman, but with men, they have to be so scrutinized and everything is broke. Everything is looked at, negatively if they are open to, a gay relationship. So that's kind of where we left off with that. Now Miss Hattie, I love Hattie. You know why I love Hattie? Because Hattie is honest. Sometimes to her own detriment, but she is honest. So she gets to work and Ida wants her to go back to her house and scan in some old. Ida's having a moment. I don't know what Ida is going through. I think she's having that reflecting on her life, realizing that she worked so hard to get to the top of the mountain, that she's at the top of the mountain, but she is there alone. And I think she's going through some stuff and having a little bit of a moment about it. But she asked Hattie to go back to her apartment. I'm sorry. That is not an apartment. That is a mansion on a hill. Go back to her house and scan in. She said, in my home office, I got a bunch of old manuscripts that are very important to me. I need you to scan them, download them to my laptop, all that good stuff. So in the midst of them doing that, Hattie is scanning, but you know Hattie. She got the reading one, honey. And she did actually end up scanning. Looked like she did finish scanning, but she was still at the house when Ida got home, when she probably had been done, but she was reading the script. And the script, it's an old script. I think the year was like 1997 or something on it. And basically, it's a love story, and where a baby ends up not. Well, the story she read, it almost sounded like they didn't have the baby, but come to find out later on, they had the baby. We'll get to that. So Ida comes home, and and of course Hattie jumps up and like, oh shit, because her ass wasn't supposed to still be there. And Ida comes in, And Ida tells her, basically, they have an honest conversation, and basically Ida tells her, like, look, because she was like, I'm sleeping on my friend's couch and da 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 da. And she was like, when I first moved to LA, I was sharing a bunk bed with a white girl with no teeth. And she was like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better about my current situation. But she said, but what you have to understand though, she said, enjoy the journey. She said, because for me, all I wanted to do was be successful. When I was your age, that's all I wanted. And now that I have the success, I'm here alone. And Hattie was like, I wouldn't be alone if I had a house like this. I'd have, women in here dropping their drawers all the time. And she was like, I'm sure you would. She was like, consensually. Hattie is funny. She was like, consensually. But she was like, you want to drink? And Hattie was like, I don't drink, but I smoke. And then she proceeds to pull out her it's like an e-cigarette, but it's got weed in it. And she gonna talk about some, it gonna hand it to her. And I'm like, so that's what we doing now? We offering our boss weed? And I know it's legal in LA, but I'm just thinking that's probably not what I would do. But Hattie don't, she don't care. And she didn't see nothing wrong with it. Now, mind you, her boss took it, and the boss didn't. And they ended up, she said, why don't you, stay here with me and, watch a documentary with me. So they end up eating out and watching the movie. And they end up kind of bonding again on relationships. Hattie tells her how, she's this one chick that, because the girl starts calling her again, her little side chick starts calling her. And so Hattie explains to her the situation. She said, and basically she told Hattie, you're not really ready to settle down. You're not ready for a relationship. She was like, yes, I am. She said, no, you're not. She said, because you seek out people who are unavailable. So you can't possibly want a relationship when you're seeking out people that can't give you that. And so she said, well, maybe I'm just scared to get my heart broken. And she said, you can't avoid that. Like, it happens. You're going to get your heart broken. You're going to break other people's heart. And so she's going to say to Ida, well, I know nobody's ever broken your heart. And she was like, yeah, right. And that's when she opened up to her and said, in college, I had to give up a baby for adoption. And so that's why I said I thought it was an abortion, but then you hear that, and that's the story that she gave the baby up. And of course, Hattie said, I'm sorry to hear that and everything. And she said, but um, I'd gonna say, but I would have made a terrible mother. Hattie gonna say, yeah, you would have. I said, so she just say what's the first thing on her mind. She don't think. So I'd have gonna look at her. She was like, but they'd have been pretty though. The baby would have been pretty. I said, so you ain't gonna apologize for saying she'd have been a terrible mother. Just that the baby would have been pretty. I said, see, but you gotta love her because it's so raw and it's so honest. Like, you can't be bad about it. So they end up having a moment, and her friends are telling her, don't fall for it. And she was like, too late. So Hattie now has a crush on Ida. She thinks it's reciprocated. That is a recipe for disaster, whether it's reciprocated or not. It is a recipe for disaster. You do not shit where you lay. You damn sure don't mess around with your boss, especially a boss that's as temperamental as Miss Ida seems to be. Baby, leave it alone. Enjoy the ride. Keep it moving. But that's what the show is called, 20s. You know she ain't gonna make a good decision because she's 20. Well, in her 20s. None of us made good decisions in our 20s. That is what we did. 20s should be dubbed bad decision decade because that is what we do in our 20s. We make bad fucking decisions. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Drop it in the comments. Peace.